Chapter 6. Midhaven.
Intergalactic Dating, profile match, #20468436786. Planet of origin, deceit. Species, deceit giant. Age, 18. Eyes, 2. Big. Skin colour, greenish brown. Characteristics, hungry, good silly voice. Likes, things that are exciting and build up to an appetite. Most likely to live in the moment. Midhaven, planet of origin, Mars. Species, Maggrumph. Age, 419. Eyes, 2. Intense. Skin colour, crickety. Characteristics, logical, intense. Likes, things that are safe. Being so engrossed in a project they forget to read. Most likely to predict the future.
It was nearly Midhaven Day, usually a time of huge celebrations on Mars. The one time of year we parted like it was 2499, but not this year, not 2480. I wasn't in the mood to see anybody at all, which was why I was currently hiding under my own table, like a glad-hearted.
Come on, Midhaven, open this door,
Called my friend Elora.
before I knock it down.
No, I said, my voice muffled by the thick door, designed to keep well-meaning busybodies like her out. I'm still hibernating,
Malaysian arts don't hibernate, silly.
she called.
I mean, we might end up in a trance sometimes.
Good idea, I said. I'll go into a trance while I hibernate then. Goodbye. I put myself in a meditative trance so that I couldn't hear her by rubbing my back legs together and making crickety noises. I hid back under the table like a glad-hearted. Unfortunately, it was the worst place I could have picked, because from where I was, I could still see Elora out my window, that devastatingly pretty pink bow she always wore around her chitinous forehead, and all those bangles she wore around her pretty chitinous neck. I could tell from the way she glared at the door that Elora wasn't going away anytime soon. In my stupor, I wasn't sure if I'd made her the worst friend, or the best that I had ever had. If a friend was what she was to me now, of course. I thought about the events of last month, and shuddered.
I'm going to shift you somehow, you know. So you might as well come out now before it gets unpleasant.
Added Elora mock-threateningly. Sorry, I yelled back. I can't hear you. I'm deep in my meditative trance.
How come you're talking to me now, silly?
She responded. La 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 la. This is the Malaysian Art Trance Answering Service calling. You may speak after the tone. I replied, doing what I thought was a really good imitation of the astral service the Mechions had provided us with many years ago.
Nice try, Nevaeh.
Elora giggled.
I know you. You never have the presence of mind to plug your astral service in. Right, if you're not going to shift, you know what I'm going to do now, don't you?
Then, without mercy, she scrolled through her phone to a Clandif with Spotify playlist and pressed a button, holding it up to the door and looking very smug with herself. Oh no, she couldn't. She wouldn't. She could. She would. She is. Without another by your leave, my house was being filled up with earth music from the 1990s, including lots of random zigger-ziggering.
I'll tell all your neighbours you requested the Spice Girls specially,
She lisped, and that little girl voice she knew had always got me together what she wanted, dating right back to the time we were toddlers together.
Then what will they think of you?
All right, I said crossly, getting up and fumbling for the bolt on the door. You win,
That's better.
said Elora, brightly peering at me when the door opened. Too brightly for my eyes. She must have seen me wince at the light as she looked me over, concerned.
What happened to you, Nevaeh?
She said, all her playfulness gone. I looked around at the perpetual state of untidiness around the room, as if seeing it for the first time. Oh, I've been busy, very hard at work, on important, work. It's central to the future of the, universe and, all that. I finished hesitatingly, pointing to my elaborate library. I like to have all my books around me and out on display. There were quadzillions of them in my house, after all. I was known in my town for being quite a scholar, even by Malaysian art standards. though I hadn't been doing much scholaring lately,
No, you haven't.
said Ella quickly, snooping round the room.
Comics from Earth, card games from Habridats, instant pot keto dishes from Ducius. You've been stunning it, haven't you?
No, I haven't, I said crossly, waving my wings and accidentally knocking over a bowl of cup of cereal. I've just been enjoying myself after a hard day's work writing my doctor's thesis.
Okay then, said
Ella brightly.
Where is it?
Where's what?
Your doctor's thesis.
Ella wasn't going to let this go, was she?
Come on, wave it under my nose and I'll leave you in peace.
My doctor's thesis, I say stumblingly, filling in time while I thought of something. My doctor has it. Ella chirruped, confused.
Your doctor has your doctor's thesis? The one on philosophical equations of the future is predicted by sociological ontology and estimated generational genetical shortcomings?
Yes, I said feebly. My doctor wanted to know why he'd run out of patience while waiting for patients. I thought this last-minute brainwave was brilliant, but Ella wasn't having any of it.
These curtains haven't been open in weeks. You know it's nearly Midhaven Day,
she said, drawing them wide, the light burning a hole behind my eyes. Ouch, I know, I said. I just haven't wanted to see anyone since, you know. Eleanor wandered over to the kitchen, not listening to me.
When did you last do the washing up?
She looked back at me concerned.
Everything in here is days old, at least looking at the state of it. When did you last eat something substantial?
I played for time. I think it was a Tuesday. I'm not sure which week it was, though. Days she wandered back to my study where the ashes of that month's astrological work, a tripod and clandesprodic tea leaves, along with Missoula branches, had once been smouldering from where, a week ago, I had consulted them 100th time just to check I was right. Only I couldn't possibly be right. I got it all wrong. Again. No one had listened to me. Nobody had backed me up. I'd been wrong before, I lied to myself. I had just messed up again, that was all. My confidence hit. I was distracted and seeing things. That's why I hadn't gone back to work for so long, I told myself. I was just in the wrong frame of mind and making mistakes. But I knew inwardly that was wrong. But really I was just too scared to face the truth. Because it was easier to accept that I was really, really bad at my job than to accept what was coming.
And when did you last do your work?
Look, she asked.
You know you're paid by the Narration Art Council to predict the future and keep us safe. Or when did you last actually predict anything?
I shifted uncomfortably from under the table. It's been a while, I admit. But then it kept coming up with so many daft things that couldn't possibly happen. If there really were storms coming, as I sort of saw a few weeks ago, the Mechions would have done something about it by now. Everyone knows we don't need to predict the future anymore. It's not like the olden days where we used to plot everything that might happen in the sky. We have Mechion scientists to tell us what will happen nowadays, and they're more accurate than me. You know that this position is truly symbolic nowadays. Most of the universe sees it as superstition. I lied.
Yeah?
Asked Ella, coming to sit under the table with me.
Well, I don't. You have a gift, Midhaven. You should use it. You've just lost confidence, that's all. Besides, we Narrationites know that everything in the sky always comes to pass down here. As above, so below,
she said, quoting one of the Narration Art mottos learnt in schools. Yeah, well, I say grumpily, I've not been too good at predicting things lately, have I? I still can't believe I embarrassed you like that.
You didn't embarrass me.
Ella smiled.
I thought it was sweet. Completely enough in your own mind, but sweet. Hurts you all over.
And now I'm just going to be known as a Narration Art fortune teller who couldn't predict his own love life, I sighed. Ella laughed, that bright sunny laugh that filled my soul.
They'll forget, silly. Eventually.
Yeah, well, I said, not yet they haven't, which is why I'm sitting still under the table for the foreseeable future, and probably quite a lot of the unforeseeable future too.
Nonsense,
said Ella, pulling me out from under the table.
Now go and make your fortunes, while I brew a large pot of nice strong clandestine tea, and then we'll go and have some fun. You look as if you need it. Work first, though.
Grumbling, I got into my work clothes, switching my shirt and tie for a monk's habit, lit some incense, got out my tripod, laid some ancient druid herbs on top, and stared into my crystal ball. Just as I was thinking I was too distracted to concentrate, the spell came over me and I sat transfixed as I saw everything play out in my mind's eye. Danger, burning, destruction, catastrophe, Armageddon. I saw the cosmic storms batter our lovely little planet this way and that. I saw the fireballs the storm would create, all that static and electricity held in place until it hit Mars's atmosphere, when it moved at speed in a sequence of fireballs. I heard the screams and panic cricketing of narration arts in pain. I saw Ella burn, along with anyone I had ever known, until the fireballs consumed me too. In a panic, I blacked out of my trance and back into reality, stumbling away from the tripod, as if it had just given me a huge shock. There was no doubt this time. The messages had been so clear. I knew that there never really had been. I had just hoped that I was wrong. But no, I was right. I was right. And how I wished I was wrong. I thought to myself, looking over at the soul I loved and remembering the vision I had just seen of her. And how I wished before, when I asked her out, that I had been right. What I would give to swap those two results round right now. Thank goodness we still had a few days to go before Midhaven, I told myself. That's when the storm would hit. Still a few small days left to put things right.
Something interesting?
Asked Ella as she came back in with the tea. I stuttered.
Argibraffe,
Ella asked.
are you seeing them in your visions now?
No, I say, clutching her so hard she tilted a tray and poured the tea down my neck, not that I noticed. Armageddon! And not in one of our possible futures one day, but right here, right now, or soon, anyway. Desperately I reach out for my other fortune-telling devices. I consult the movements of the stars in the sky. I cast runes. I read my tarot cards. I sit in front of a mirror and scry into it, gazing at my reflection in earnest. Everything came out the same. There was a storm coming, the likes of which Mraz had never seen before, and it was coming for us soon. During my panic, Ella just looks on after me, concerned, until there was a gibbering mess in the corner.
Right,
She said, finally taking me by the wing.
come with me. It's not good for you to stay in here any longer.
She spoke into my house control.
Set to airing mode.
She glared at me.
Extreme airing mode.
A fan turned out and half my papers shot out of their hidey holes and danced around the room.
Plus cleaning. Level 15, she said.
As a Mechion robot came out of the floor and started dusting so hard I coughed. I can't stay here with this going on, I spluttered. Directive countermanded.
Countermanded.
Cried Ella.
Infinity plus 1.
She said, glancing over at me. I knew I should never have given her the co-controls to my house. Every Mirasian art made sure they had a backup person, just in case the house developed a personality and locked them out by becoming sentient by accident. They could, you know. A Mechion had moved in next to a lady down my road and tinkered with her controls so heavily, the only way she could get into a house again was by first attaching a chimney and then climbing down it. So ever since then, all of us on Mraz had taken the additional measures of having a backup security control. As my friend since nursery school, Ella had been the obvious choice to be my backup. Well, I said, still miffed at the intrusion, at least come with me and try to get someone important to listen to me.
Oh,
Said Ella, confused.
what do you mean? I'm no one special.
Oh yes, you are, I felt my heart say, but I try not to listen to it and banish the thoughts from my head. They didn't listen to me last time when all this was possible. What chance have I now, even though it's probable? I just need someone who isn't me. When I go out it goes really badly, I said. Watch. I veered down the lane to a main road, and within no time at all a bunch of small children walked down the road, pointed at me, and laughed.
Hey!
One cried.
Predicted any good catastrophes lately? We're all still here!
Said a second, and he danced, just to prove to me that he was indeed still here.
Oi,
Said a third.
guess what? It isn't raining. Still, in fact the sky's never been brighter. My daddy says he's just one attention.
Lisped the fourth, the youngest. I particularly flinched at that one, both because the daddy happened to be the Mirasian mare, and because as a purebred Mirasian art, the last thing I wanted in the world was attention. I just wanted everything to go away so I could go back to being my true self.
Oh look,
Sneered the fifth, the eldest.
that isn't the girlfriend he predicted would love him forever. He just turned out to be a friend who likes girls.
They all laughed, mercilessly. You see, I said to Ellora, pulling her back off the path, it's hopeless. Nobody believes me when the sky is this bright, but we all know how quickly things can change, and I don't just mean the weather. I predict my future is going to be full of more name-calling right up until the moment catastrophe hits and everyone dies. To be honest, the way things are going, I'm starting to think that's the better of my two options right now. Ellora sighed. She still hadn't quite forgiven me for asking her out in front of all her friends a month or so ago, including a friend that she had been quite openly dating, it turned out. Open to everyone, except me at least. I hadn't noticed at all. She was also more than a little sceptical of my predictions too.
All right, Midhaven,
she said.
I'll cut you a deal. We'll go to some official together and try to get them to listen to you. But in return, if we're all still alive afterwards, I want you to come with me for a night off. It's not good to be all shut up in your house like this.
She smiled, that radiant smile at me.
The club down the road has just reopened. The chef is amazing. She's come from Midhaven, all the way from Deceit. And she sings too. She's the life and soul of the party.
I groaned, longing for the days when parties had been banned from our introverted world full of invertebrates under the apartheid laws, before the Belobrats and co started emigrating to our world and making sure that it became multicultural. Though a lot of the young Eurasianites liked it, and most things on the planet, I confessed, had changed for the better since we'd all made interstellar contact with another. I would never get used to the idea that some of these newcomers actually liked stopping people in the street and talking to them, never mind making, small talk, for fun. I'm not in the mood for a party, I mumble. I'm not ready to face the world yet, especially because I know it won't be here for much longer.
Tough,
said Ellora,
because the world is missing you. We all are.
I half walked and was half dragged down the road in silence. Eleanor raised her eyebrows. I knew she'd only made the suggestion to test how much I really wanted her to go with me.
It's really bad this time, isn't it?
She said in a quiet voice.
I don't think I've ever seen you quite as dark as this before. I know it's your job to look out for bad news in the heavens. I wish you didn't have to find so much of it. I'm sure your predecessor didn't sense as much doom and gloom, and they lived under our fear.
I shuddered at the name. 200 years ago he had been the dictator, and had nearly destroyed Mars. Look, I'm just the messenger, I said, and it was true. We didn't really have meteorologists on our planet, because we thought worrying about what the weather was doing in the now was stupid, when it was only a fleeting measure of discomfort. My job was being a meteorologist, watching the pattern of meteors in our planet's cosmic path, and logging them in case of some big upset or change that would impact us for time to come. And I had just seen the biggest one for generations. I'm not responsible for the message. Well, only the tiny part I have free will over anyway. And my free will is to warn everyone about this, and they're not flipping listening to me. They're just carrying on as if nothing's wrong. I stop abruptly, and Ellora looks at me instinctively, but I can't yet bring myself to look her full in the face just yet. It really is, every bit as bad as that. Worse even. I've just done the same calculations over and over again, but I keep coming up with the same result. The worst cosmic storm in centuries. It's going to cause absolute chaos, destroy our cities, destroy us too if we're foolhardy enough to be left behind. And it's happening on my watch. Again. People are starting to talk, to say that I'm cursed. I'm going to lose my job. I paused, the magnitude of it all hitting me again. All my life, I add for dramatic tension.
Oh, that's nonsense,
says Ellora.
You can't blame the weatherman for the weather.
She stopped to think.
Can you?
I groaned. Well, you know as well as me what a superstitious lot Eurasianites can be. Usually our intuition and need to join up the cosmic dots is a good thing. I like to think that we're the keepers of the universe sometimes, with half a foot inside the future that no other species can see coming, because they're always so caught up in the present. But other times, I turn and find the looker square in the eyes. It scares me, Ellora. I see things coming, and they're always right. Every single time.
Well,
said Ellora doubtfully, and I hopped from foot to foot uncomfortably. Though it was unspoken, we both had the same memory, of the shy me following her round for years, before finally picking up the courage to ask her out, before discovering that she was in fact a lesbian Eurasianard. She'd been kind about it, and it hadn't damaged our friendship, yet, but oh how people had talked. There goes a professional future seer who couldn't even work out the future properly when it was right in front of him. How was I to know? I added crossly.
The signs were there, darling.
She laughed.
The posters of all these influential women from around the universe on my walls.
I thought you just felt empowered, I said feebly.
Or was those been films I made you watch with me?
I thought you just liked squeaky glad to hard it films with subtitles. And lots of kissing, I added, just as feebly.
The flirting with girls.
I thought you were just being polite, I said feebly.
I go by they or them on all my social media profiles,
she said. I thought you just had a really complex personality, I confessed.
Then there was the kissing. Oh, the kissing. Well, with girls, I might add.
She grinned. I thought you were just being friendly, I choked.
On the wedding ceremony I had with Aileen,
she smiled, recalling a happy day. I thought you just wanted to wear white, I finished, even more feebly.
Poor Nevaeh,
she laughed, remembering the look on my face when she explained why she'd turned me down that day.
How come you can see what's far away so well, and be so oblivious to what's under your nose?
She mused. And more kindly, she said.
I'm sorry. I know what a shock it was for you. And I'm sorry that you're still pining for me, and you haven't found love yet. I worry about you so much. I hope you find her somewhere, this mysterious girl you're looking for, wherever she is.
She bent down to her phone.
Here you are,
Eleanor added, handing it to me. What's this? I asked blankly.
I figured if I can't be your date, I might as well find you a date,
she said.
So I signed up to an app called Intergalactic Dating on your behalf. Look at all these people I matched with your traits.
She showed me a whole range of aliens. Against my interests, she put fortune-telling, catastrophe, doom, gloom, and anxiety. No, 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 I shout. I don't have time to think about dating as in love. I'm still too concerned about dating as in when is Armageddon going to hit. Besides, that's just me. It's not who I'm looking for. I don't want to be with anyone who's genuinely interested in doom and anxiety. That sounds awful. If I'm going to date anyone, they're going to be sweet and silly, a great cook, and an even better singer. They would have to be you, I said, looking longingly at my former friend. My future muse, my current... Well, what was she now? Was there a word for someone you hoped would be your forever person, who turned out to be just your yesterday girl?
Of course,
smiled Ella, not taking the bait.
Opposites attract, that would be better. Here's a Dewsbury giant who seems nice and laid back. Good chef, great singing voice apparently. Just what you need. She looks familiar, but then aliens can look all the same.
I'm not doing long distance, I snapped. I'm not leaving my job.
You don't need to,
said Ella.
The Dewsbury giant is right here. Her name is...
Ooh, I don't actually care right now, I snapped, and went to throw Ella's phone away. But as ever, Ella had predicted what I was going to do, and snatched it out of my reach, laughing.
Do slow,
she giggled.
I'll send you a message. Look, you might be right about this whole shebang, Nevaeh. I honestly don't know. You're clearly hopeless of finding love.
Personal futures don't count, I snapped back, more crossly than I felt. Individuals change their own futures every day. The way the planets move, though, the constellations, the shifts and movements, together with the words that the politicians are saying. That doesn't lie.
You're just overtired,
laughed Ella hollowly.
You're seeing patterns that aren't there.
You know that isn't true, I say, holding her hand and putting my best serious face on. You feel it too, don't you? At the back of your mind, the feeling that something awful is about to happen and break over our heads.
Yes,
said Ella quietly.
I do feel that too, but I try hard not to. The thrill was bigger than rouse this time, though. I felt it when Almathea was about to get into power. I felt it when the clandestines went to war with the humans, not that we knew either of them at the time. I felt it when the Agrosians tried to take over the universe and we had to rebuild our planet. I even felt it when we lost the foosball at the Olympic Games and were interrupted by those orphan children. I feel it now, too.
Good, I said, relieved that even though it was untheorised intuition, someone apart from me had backed up my figures. I mean, not good, I stammered. Not good at all. Cataclysmic, in fact. But at least it's not just me. I was beginning to wonder. I grabbed her by the shoulder. "We have to get out of here," I said. "There's going to be a storm, the likes of which we've never seen before, followed by a crop shortage, then a war. Well, more of a dispute, really. That's an excuse for another totalitarian regime. Mars will fall, Elora. There's no escape. I've consulted horoscopes, tarot, tea leaves, runes, lifelines, the I Ching, the Geordie human version, the Why I Ching. I've scried into a mirror. I've written automatic writing. I've used a Mechion ESP device. I've burnt incense on top of a tripod and looked for hallucinations. All the results are the same. Apocalyptic." I saw her sad face. "I know you only partly believe me," I said, "but we have to get away now. All of us, everybody we love and can persuade to leave, or it's going to be a disaster on an unprecedented scale. Remember, I'm telling you this because, well, I love you, even if it's not reciprocated."
Oh, I love you, you silly Reginald. In every way, except sexually. How long have we got?
My friend asked, her voice oddly free from doubt. "Not long," I said. "Weeks, maybe. Could be months if we're lucky. Possibly days."
And have you told someone?
Elora asked.
Someone in charge, I mean.
"Repeatedly," I nodded. "I've posted all my findings to the government in my official capacity as Oracle Laureate. Then when they ignored me officially, I posted my results on the Universal. That's how those children knew. They said the Mechion scientists haven't spotted anything coming. But you know what Mechions are like. They're programmed to see the present as it is, not the future as it may be. They don't have intuition like we do. They're too logical. And you know how suddenly storms can start out of nothing." I look around us. But then the Reginards have stopped caring about the future too. Nobody wants us to know that a storm is coming on a bright sunny day like this. They just kick the doozleberry down the road a bit longer so we don't have to deal with it till it happens. But I can see it, Elora. I can see it all. The pictures run inside my head all the time without an off switch. All I can see is the apocalypse to come. When I talk to someone, I see their fiery death. When I look out my window, I see it burning in some disaster. I can't stop it. Elora turned an odd shade of roulette, the pale version that could be seen faintly, even on species retinas that weren't built for it, such as humans.
So what can we do?
We run, I say. We still have a few days left, I think. We get as many people to come with us as we can, build up our supplies, and then take off into orbit for a few months, while mentoring what's going on, and perhaps we might be able to come back home, if there is a home. Elora held my hand.
We'll get through this, Midhaven. People will listen to you. You've got form. You've always been right before. Sort of.
I laughed bitterly. Then why is nobody listening? I'll tell you why, because there's no profit in prophecy. People only want to know about fortune tellers when things you do get proven true. And by then it will be too late. Elora looked up at me with those big blue eyes, the middle one flashing on and off, shyly. The eyes that I once hoped were mine. The eyes that I convinced myself were once looking up at me with more than just affection and pity. The eyes that I once thought I was going to stare into every day for the rest of my life. And suddenly the impending apocalypse to end all time didn't seem quite so important.
Come with me,
She said.
We're going to make someone listen.
There we were outside the town hall, ringing the bell loudly while I hopped from grasshopper foot to grasshopper foot. "Maybe they're not in," I said. "Hey, maybe they read what I posted and they've all absconded after all."
They're not Belobrats or Maggrumph.
Elora snapped.
They wouldn't leave us. No, they're just busy because it's nearly Midhaven Day. Here we are.
We heard the door turning.
Hello,
Said the official, balancing a wig on his chitinous head.
what do you want this time of night?
"I sent you a warning," I said. "I'm the Oracle Laureate. There's a storm coming. Soon. We'd need to run away. Now. Just leave the planet for a day or two and drift into space, and then we can come back to Mars and rebuild it. So if you could authorise us over the shuttle,"
Hello,
smirked the clerk.
I remember you now. Too ashamed to show your face after asking this nice young lady out, are you? Wanting to run away?
"No," I huffed, cursing the fact that I came from such a small planet where gossip seemed to travel at the speed of light, so within no time at all everyone always seemed to know your business. "It's not just me, and it's not running away. It's everyone. Now."
He's never wrong.
Agreed Elora, though from her tone more to be polite than because she truly believed me, I think.
I think somebody else ought to look into these figures anyway.
The clerk laughed.
We don't treat fortune telling quite the same way anymore. Not since meeting up with the scientists in the elevator anyway. Otherwise, we still have a post for an article. I must remember that for the next budget cuts.
Astrology was our science for 8,000 years at least, and saved us many times over, long before we'd even heard of Mechions, I say crossly, and it never did us any harm.
Didn't it?
Laughed the clerk.
Try telling that to all the chickens whose own trails were red.
We use other methods now, I said, finally snapping after being on edge for so long. I reached out and grabbed his palms. There you are, you see. This is your lifeline. It's very short. Everyone's, I know, is, and they all seem to end very, very soon. This is where your laughter line should be, only it's non-existent because you don't have a sense of humour. This is your wisdom line, which says that you should listen to me if you want to live. This is your headline. It shows that you're very, very stubborn and you'd rather die in a raging inferno of solar time winds than listen to me. This is my rising sign. It shows that my temper is rising right now. And this is your personality line. It ends in guilt that I was right all along and you were such a jerk to me.
What's this nonsense?
He replied.
Go listen to one of those nice science lectures by Crown Box or Brian Bray or someone and stop bothering me.
He shut the door, rather rudely for a Malaysian art, in my face. That no-good insect, I cried. I bet he's got some Agrosian blood in him acting like that. Remind me to do an astrological profile on him later.
Hush,
said Ellery, placing a soothing arm on my shoulder, probably not realising the full emotional effect her doing that had on me.
if we can't get him to listen officially, then maybe we can find some other way, using real people, all rising up together. Remember the Intergalactic Peace Orchestra?
I did. I also remembered how they'd been ridiculed and deported across a period of days before everyone finally listened to them. And we might not have many days left.
Will anything happen tonight, do you think?
Eleanor asked. I shook my head. Definitely not. The signs aren't quite that close, or I would have come round your house and taken you away. No, we're definitely safe tonight, though I'm not sure how many days afterwards we'll be able to say the same. Do you trust me, I said to Eleanor, enough to come with me, just in case? In my head I was already playing out a future scenario where the two of us were the only ones to survive the inferno. Gratefully, Ellery had stared out of a disintegrating planet and leapt into my arms.
Oh, Nevaeh,
She said in my dreams,
I was wrong to ever doubt you. Oh, and I've decided that really I'm a bi-insect, and now there are only 2 Narationites left to repopulate our planet. Well, we better get busy. Yes, Nevaeh,
Ellery said, the real her intruding into my thoughts of imaginary her.
and I will persuade as many of my girlfriends to come as I can, especially the one I'm dating, and the others I have crushes on, even if I have to fool them into thinking we're going on holiday.
Oh, I thought, there goes that daydream, before ticking myself off for daring to have personal thoughts at a time of worldwide, possibly intergalactic, crisis. Good, I mumbled instead, of all the things I wanted to say.
Well then,
Smiled Ellery thoughtfully.
there's nothing else we can do tonight. If this is our last night, let's make it a good one.
She saw me look reluctant.
Come on,
She said, pouring at me.
you've clearly been studying this and living in the future for far too long. Even you need a break. And maybe going back to it later, you'll think of a solution.
I smiled at her. Yes, it would be like old times, when it was just you and me. I pull her face. Don't you remember how good it was, Ellery? You and me against the world. Just think how good that would be if we could get it back. If you could be mine, and I could be yours again, and we could live together, forever. I wouldn't mind losing the rest of the planet if we could be together. We could repopulate it and... I trailed off, realising how quiet my companion had been, and looked up, unprepared for how hurt she looked.
Oh, Nevaeh,
Yeah, she said, her hands on her very delectable hips.
I thought we'd been through that. It's not the sort of thing I have control over, you know. The gender I fancy, it just is. It's a fact, not a prediction that can be changed sometime in the future based on free will. It's a certifiable, unequivocal fact. I just don't feel the same way about you that you feel about me. I couldn't feel the same way about you, even if I wanted to. And that's no reflection on you, and it's no reflection on me. Look, I know your heart's in the right place, but other parts of you are in all the wrong ones. That won't float my boat, I'm afraid, no matter how hard you try. In fact, it scuffles my shuttle.
Please, I beg of her, just try it. You'll like it.
Not half as much as I'd love it if you were a girl,
She said, grinning at some memory I couldn't share, and felt most cut off from. I wasn't used to being shut out from her experiences. Till recently it had felt as if we had shared them all.
Please, Nevaeh, I know we once dreamed of the future together, but that was when we were little. Before I matured, I don't share that dream anymore.
She pressed her forehead into mine, with a Eurasian heart wave showing love.
You have to let me go now,
Now, she whispered.
please, for your sake, as well as mine.
I pull my head away and look up at her sadly. But that dream was my whole future. I was going to build our whole lives around it, around each other.
I'm sorry,
Eleanor said, even sadder.
but this isn't the sort of thing you get to choose, and the decision is not in my power, any more than it is in yours. Now, are you here to have a good time, or are you just going to pull that long inset face you do so well all night?
She walked on stiffly, ahead of me, trying her best not to look back as I moped along behind her. Stupid, stupid Eurasian art, I said to myself. You knew she would react like that, so why did you ask her to? Why couldn't you see that future coming, eh? Although that was more because I'd been trying to improvise, I realised, going by what I saw with my eyes, rather than what I felt with my heart, and what I sensed in my brain. It always went wrong when I tried to live in the moment. Trust Eleanor to bring me down to Mraz with a bump, I thought. At least help me rescue everybody, I called after her meekly. I still have my notes with me, in case I have a sudden thought about work while I'm enjoying myself, I said. Eleanor sighed, but didn't stop me. She knew me too well for that. We made our way to the Colawalla Club. I didn't come here as a rule. It was too loud and bright, too contemporary for a being that spent so much of the time in the future. But it seemed fitting to be here on what might well turn out to be one of our last nights in Mars, having been the home of the Intergalactic Orchestra centuries ago that helped bring about peace. There was a plaque on the door celebrating it now from the Intergalactic Trust, saying that it was a protected building of historical interest, though in keeping with the general modesty of Eurasian art, it was hidden away in the little aliens room round the back. And besides, it didn't matter how many plaques were on it. I knew that wasn't going to save it from destruction when the time came. The club had been expanded since the olden days, though. It now had a stage where bands from all over the universe could book and play, often for food, occasionally for money, but usually just for the sheer joy of having an audience. There were extra decorations up I wasn't expecting, though, which only looked ever so vaguely familiar. Wait, I said hurriedly, why are the Midhaven decorations up? Eleanor laughed.
Because Midhaven is tomorrow, silly. Why do you think?
Oh no. I had been under that table for longer than I thought. We didn't just have a few days or weeks, we had a few hours. Midhaven was a national holiday festival on Mars. In fact, it was the only national holiday on Mars. We weren't really your party type of aliens, you see. We tended to keep to ourselves, and our idea of a communal party was to go to the library and read a book in silence, surrounded by other people, rather than read it in silence at home alone. Midhaven, though, was different. A rare time when everyone on the planet came together, because that's what was happening in the stars after all, and so above, so below. Mars was one of our sun's most distant planets, and we revolved so slowly around it that almost everybody on the planet, barring immigrants, shared the same astrological features. Rationalists didn't really like birthdays. We hated all that fuss and attention. Midhaven Day was, in a way, our planet's communal birthday, the moment when our stars were at the highest point in the sky, and the 4 points of our collective birth chart came together in alignment. The ascendant, how we viewed the world; the descendant, how others view us; the westendant, our public face; and the eastendant, our family roots. It was the moment when we all let off steam from all the serious projects we spent the rest of the year making and lived the wild life for a few precious hours. It was also a time for adults, where young Eurasianites were tucked up safely in bed, the houses keeping an eye on them, so that they didn't get to see the adults being naughty and become ashamed of them. And attending our first Midhaven party was seen as a rite of passage growing up. I remembered, with a smile, my teenage years trying to sneak in with my friends in resentment of being kept home. Some of us were, it's true, apt to get a bit silly and indulgent in our wild party ways. A little too much poetry here, a pottery class there, maybe even, shock horror, a communal sing-song or three. All that giddy excitement sometimes went to people's heads too. They could be discovered in the early hours contemplating new philosophical theories, drawing elaborate graffiti sculptures, or studying quantum theory in funny hats. It was like other planets' Christmas and New Year's, when the usual rules and societal niceties of our world no longer applied, as if our planet only had 3 Friday nights a year and spent them all at once. It was, if you like that sort of thing, Midhaven. It was also the worst possible timing for what I had just seen in our collective futures, because now I knew nobody would listen to me. At all.
You big silly.
Laughed Ellery.
You're so wrapped up in tomorrow you've forgotten what day it is today. Midhaven's Eve, the night when dreams are possible.
She watched me go white and grabbed a chair for me to sit on. But that means, I spluttered, that means everything happened sooner than I thought. I clutched at her desperately, with a sense of urgency most of me coming in a Malaysian yard. We have to get everyone away from here, I half yelled. Now!
On Midhaven Day.
Ellery laughed.
Good luck shifting this lot. The improvisational comedy team are just about to start, and I won't stop wisecracking until the festival's over. I spent all year preparing for it. Besides, the weather was really good tonight. There's no storm coming anytime soon. Okay, let's go with the one we've chosen so far. So we've got a Formula 1 driver that's a love the harbour. It's in a swimming pool, upside down, because Keith Moon's just thrown in there during his 21st party on Earth. Oh me, my dear's the twist. He's doing a meditative trance because he's secretly a Renaissance monk. Oh, that's easy. I could be like standing on my head. In like every time now. Now pass that funny hat to me. I'll put it on my leg. Oh, such fun. Oh, what to do that?
It happened really suddenly, I said, remembering what the predictions had outlined about a sudden invasion of hot and cold air right above our planet. Confused as to Ellery's sudden change in mood, I looked at her puzzled. I thought you believed me. Ellery shrugged.
Out there, seeing your pale face or panic silhouetted against the dark and moonless sky, I kind of believed it. But here, amongst all this conviviality, nothing bad's going to happen tonight or the next 2 days. You just worry too much, you do.
But Ellery, I cried as she walked away from me again, greeted by her girlfriends, particularly Aileen, the one I was still struggling to think of as her wife. I felt that I was losing Ellery all over again, and I tried to look away while the two of them kissed. Without really looking, I got a chair nailed to the stage and sat looking, or at least pretending to look, through my notes. I tried not to listen as Ellery and her friends sat down, and the kisses got louder and louder. But all I could think of in my mind's eye to distract myself from the terrible disaster befalling me in the present was to think of a horrible disaster about to befall us all in the future. I tried to tell people in a panic what I'd seen in their visions, to make them all run away, but they were too noisy, and I was too quiet. And besides, everyone was used to ignoring me, so I ended up just sitting down to the right of Ellery and her friends, pretending not to see her anymore. Instead, I let my ears drift to the stage, where a figure dominated the room, slowly at first, then in a headlong rush. That sweet song. It was so intoxicating. At first I thought the domination of my senses was because of a bull. She was clearly a Dewsbury giant after all. But really, it was her personality. She was so alive, so in the moment, so not like a narration art at all. She filled up the room in more ways than just a figure, and in a world of introverts who shied away from all and any attention, she demanded the gaze of everyone in the room, playing up to her audience and making everyone acknowledge her. I didn't think anything or anyone could make me forget what I had just seen. But suddenly here, with so much joy filling up my heart space, I could see what Ellery meant. No, it really didn't seem as if anything bad could happen. Not here, where things were so happy. Despite my better judgment, I was captivated by this entertainment. Living in the moment like never before, as my senses pounced on every sweet note of hers, using them as a distraction to take me out of myself.
Good, isn't she?
Whispered Aileen, another of Ellery's friends who had come to sit next to me.
She only arrived a few days ago from Disney. She said she wanted to see what our culinary holiday was like. She just got a job as a chef last week, but they paid her for letting her sing. And the other way, she's got half a cake budget.
She's really good, I replied in awe, watching as the Dewsbury giant filled up every last inch of the stage. What's her name? The singer heard me and called from the stage.
They call me Ooh, sweetie,
She said, throwing me a kiss.
because I make people go ooh when they see me.
Ooh launched into the next song.
You've got to live in the present, because back is the present. We can all share. The past is gone, it wasn't here for very long, and the future's not getting us anywhere. It's today that counts in any amount. Enjoy what you have with gratitude. Yesterday it has no part to play. Tomorrow it's said we'll all be dead. Whoops, did I just kill the moon? No need to fret about what will be. The future was never ours to see. No need to feel guilt about who you once have been. Today could be your chance for a whole new romance. So get out there and make yourself see. You've got to live for today before it fades away. Be here now for as long as you can. Yesterday made us weep, tomorrow might make us cry. But you could lose all of your second chances wondering why. You could lose control of yourself when you always try to plan. No need to diet, I don't recommend you try it. Or live frugally when the worst might never take place. Spend all of your wealth, be kind to yourself, for there will never be another you across time or space. I always find original thoughts get stuck in my mind, so don't get on out of your head. Be more supple and compliant, like Mr. Richard. There's so much time to think when you're dead. Yeah. Woo!
Ooh, I said automatically as the set ended. I'd never encountered anything like this before. It was as if all my senses were on fire. This was like how I felt for Elora, but more so somehow.
The cold, sweetie,
said the Dewsbury sweetly, as she clambered down from the stage and sat round a chair near my table. Well, three stuck together technically. A local lad named Bruno Mraz walked up on stage to sing, but he was awful, so my ears quickly tuned him out. That was amazing, I said, my senses still reeling. I've never known anything like it. Mraz has lots of musicians, of course, but we tend to be the timid singer-songwriter types. I've never known anybody own a stage and go out there and grab attention like that before. It was like having a really big meal after being starved for so long.
Thank you, honey.
Oh, giggled.
I think it's just about the biggest compliment I've ever been paid. I love big compliments. The bigger the better. I didn't think it was one of my better shows tonight. Tough crowd after all. But basically I'm just singing for my supper here. I've not been on this little old planet very long, but I'm really digging it. I wanted to get away from Dewsbury for a bit. I needed my peace and quiet.
Well, I said, I'm grateful you're here. I needed the distraction, for all sorts of reasons. I peered over to my right, where Elora had her arm draped all over Aylin, and they were both eagerly drinking juice from a barrel Lulu was pouring onto them, the liquid slopping down their shirts as they pulled at each other to get out of the way. Another friend named Dorothy giggled and watched on.
What's tough, sugar?
Said watching my line of sight.
You were close once, huh?
Yes, I said, surprised. I was so used to Maration being the intuitives of the universe that I'd forgotten other species could join in too.
I'm part Maration, sugar,
she said.
On the grandma's side. That's where I think I get my musical talent from. And they gave me these thin, sticky-out legs. Another reason why I wanted to come here to visit my ancestors. I don't think I've got the legs to make the music most Mauritianites do. I'm quite jealous.
She stuck her legs out to show me that they didn't look that thin next to mine.
I'm a bit of a hybrid all round.
She smiled.
Bit of this, bit of that. Part girl, part boy.
My eyes opened. Of course, that's what was different. I hadn't met a Dewsbury giant before, but even I had wondered.
Yes, to save you asking, because people get nervous about asking, but I don't know why. I'm a transparent giant.
She nodded.
I started off a boy, but that always felt wrong, so I changed into a girl. It shouldn't be that big a deal, just a mistake of biology. Happens all the time. You wouldn't think that the way some of the lesser aliens go on about it. The way I see it, I'm no different to anyone else in the universe. I mean, we're all transitioning, aren't we? All of us, from one thing we used to be, into a second that we will all become. That's a very Mauritian view after all. It's just that, with me, there's a bigger change than with most people, that's all. Minor differences, really. Oh, except a few extra attached parts, I suppose. That makes me almost Mechion.
She leaned back in the chairs, which weren't designed to take her weight.
That's another reason I wanted to move to Mars. You're also open-minded here. Kind to the LGBTSA, that's the lesbian, gay, bigender, trans, sentient argibraffe community. Understanding, accepting, open-minded, sympathetic. Mostly.
She shot a glance at some elderly Mauritianites who were muttering in the corner.
Poor things.
Who said quietly, almost to herself.
The universe has changed so much and become less rigid and black and white, and they don't like it because things aren't the way they used to be. It's not as if I need to ask their permission to be my real self, any more than they need my permission to be their rude selves.
She stared them down. I'm sorry, I stammer. I have the same problem with a lot of them, and that's more because I'm steeped in the past, still carrying on the grand astrological and fortune-telling traditions of centuries ago. They just don't like anybody that's different, who live their life in a way they don't. They don't think it can be proper doing anything that they don't do themselves.
Well,
Laughed Du.
that's a shame, because I'm very different, and I'm not going anywhere.
She waved her long fingers at the elder patrons and blew them a kiss. They all looked the other way, nervously.
So you say you're into fortunes, cutie pie?
Who asked?
Would you tell me mine?
Of course, I said, taking her large hands in my tiny ones. Here's your heartline. This means you have a large personality.
Well, I haven't got that right, angel cakes.
She laughed merrily. This is your lifeline. It says you're going to live a long, full and happy life.
I sure hope so, sarsaparilla.
Who smiled. And this is your career line. It shows that you will make a lot of people happy. See this fork here? It means you possess a musical gift. Whose smile got bigger.
Oh, a fork?
She asked.
Tell me about the whole cutlery, your buttercup. Don't be shy.
This is interesting, I said, tracing a faint line down the middle of her palm. I thought only Mauritianites got these. It shows you have a gift of recognising the truth, even when no one else does. Your intuition is really strong.
But I do, sugar lips.
Who agreed.
I always know when to put a bun in the oven and take it out, as it were. That's what makes me the best kind of chef. The cooks here spend far too much using recipe books and making it exact science. But food is an art form, much more than it is a form of mathematics. Nobody on this planet loves their food, they just tolerate it. And that makes me sad. It's my mission to teach you all about losing yourself in the moment, of enjoying creature comforts and luxuriating in the now, instead of spending your whole lives preparing for tomorrow. Because what's going to happen when you run out of tomorrows and you've planned them all away? Here, try this.
Who handed over a sticky bun that was part eclair, part donut, part gâteau, part banoffee, and covered in sprinkles, with multiple chocolate wisps sticking out of it. I had never even tasted gluten before. It was mid-heavenly. I didn't know that food could be this good, I confess, embarrassing myself with how quickly I was stuffing it into my mouth, but so wrapped up in the moment I didn't care. Have you got any more?
Plenty.
Laughed Du, handing out another slice.
I love an appreciative audience, be it for my singing or my cooking. You Mauritianites are all like stick insects. I say it is my duty to feed you all up in so many ways. You all need more sensuality in your life. The good things, much better for you than all that worrying. Live for the moment like I do. Appreciate the good things life has to offer. After all, when did you last have a square meal? Or a triangular one? Or any one?
It's been a while, I confess, remembering the instant noodles I've been scoffing. If your intuition is half as good as your cooking, I can see where your palm is so strong, I said, mumbling between mouthfuls.
That it is, apple of my eye. I also know exactly who to trust and who to keep away from. And I know to trust you. I also know that you are carrying a heavy load on your tiny bag. You did me a favour by being a good audience. Now I will do the same for you. Offload everything that's on your mind. I can see that it's a lot.
But I was too shy to say anything just then, so I just looked down, shyly. I mean, where would I even start? That she was likely going to die? But that because I'd been so bad at my job, no one would listen to me, and I wouldn't be able to stop it. Instead of pushing me to talk, Hugh smiled and lifted a hand up to hold mine and press it against her lips.
Sweet boy,
she murmured. It's all right.
I don't need to read your hand. I can see it in your eyes. Your kind heart that always gets damaged by accident. Your keen work ethic, even when nobody ever listens to you. Your desperate need to save everyone, when no one seems to lift a finger to help you. Except her.
You said, glancing back at Elora, who was rubbing her back legs against Aelin and making sweet music together, in public.
The only person you felt understood you in the whole of the universe, and now you're wondering if you ever really knew her at all. But you did. In all the ways that matter. She still cares for you.
But what good is that, I asked. She'll never love me, not the way I love her. I felt all the possible futures I once planned for us evaporate into the ether, and felt my heart rip out of its socket once more.
You're still friends.
I do.
There will never be anything to change that. And a friend is still a pretty great thing to have.
Doesn't keep you warm at night though, does it? I said, feeling sorry for myself.
If that's all you want, Muffin, go ahead and get an argibraffe instead. They're cheaper, and don't answer back quite so much as a partner.
Cackled Ooh, and despite my black mood, I found myself smiling. Her energy was infectious.
Hey, so your plans change. There'll be other beings, better ones. It's not the end of the world. Nobody died.
She saw my face change. What did I say? Ooh, I said, deciding to trust her, indeed feeling a desperate need to save her. I work in visions, I read futures, and I see a very bad future coming, for all of Mraz, maybe for all the universe. It's right on top of us, only nobody will listen to me or take precautions, and I don't know how to stop it. I feel like that old story about the Glabdahardit who cried interplanetary alert so often nobody listens to him anymore. But it's there. I can't stop seeing it, and I can't risk everybody's lives. We need to leave now, all of us, but nobody will listen to me. I'm basically the planetary joke around here. I missed the worst snowstorm that Mraz ever saw, and everybody was dressed for hot weather through it because of me. Well, the worst drought on the planet happened despite me forecasting rain 10 days in a row. I would have lost my job for sure if it had been an important one. But most people see my job title as a bit of a nonsense. A hangover from the old days of superstition, when people used to predict the end of the world every few minutes. But I was younger then, and inexperienced, and made honest mistakes. This time it's different. I've learned to quintuple check my findings, and they all say the same. We're in for a disaster. But I can't get anyone to listen. Not even Elora believes me, really, and I thought she believed in every word I said. I glanced over to where she was doing the communal conga with her arms wrapped around Aelin, Alula, Astrophel and Dorothy, all these insect-like beings wobbling around on their thin long legs. And if even my oldest and dearest friends don't believe me, what hope does everyone else? We're doomed. I looked at Oo, whose intense gaze suddenly seemed very Malaysian art-like. You believe me, don't you? I suddenly asked, desperately. I realised how ridiculous all this sounded. I couldn't read Oo's expression, which was annoying. I was used to reading everybody's effortlessly. But she bit her lip, reached into her bag and brought out her phone. Logging on to her Intergalactic Dating account, she showed me a bunch of figures.
My future lies here,
she said.
The runes don't lie. Yes, I cast them too. I am part Malaysian after all. I have only just arrived. Not that I'm saying you're wrong,
she said quickly, seeing the look on my face.
For I feel that sense of foreboding too, but have you had your readings checked?
No, no one will listen, I gasped. You mean you sort of believe me? In a world of narration arts who believe in the future, I bump into a Dewsbury giant who accepts me at face value. I couldn't believe my luck. Perhaps it was fated.
Of course,
Screamed Dew.
Well, at any rate, I believe there's a problem coming. But I don't believe that we're doomed. There's always something we can do. What if there's a way to solve it? To change things in the present to avert disaster in the future?
But how? I asked, feeling hopeless. It's all foretold. Nobody will listen to me anyway. Nobody will let me do my job. Nobody respects me for being me, or accepts me for who I am. I bet you don't know what that's like.
Oh, sweet pea,
said Dew lovingly.
Do I know all about that? When I was born, they told me that I was too big to be a girl, so I would have to be a boy. As if who you are on the outside has even the slightest bearing on who you are on the inside. However, I was young and impressionable back then, so I went on an epic diet that went on for months. I made myself thin enough to pass as the part of the ration that I was. And do you know what everyone said to me then? They said I was now too thin to be a girl, so I had to stay as a boy. They all said it was a passing phase that I would grow out of, that I would adjust to being in the gender I was born in. But I could see my future stretching out before me, and every time I saw it, I knew that I was a girl, not a boy, whatever size I was. I had to be me, at all costs. I knew that I was going to be a singer too, not the chef my family wanted me to be, though I cook here to make ends meet because, bad as I am for Dewsbury Giant, I know a lot more about food than anybody here. And it hurt, because I knew that I was better at telling fortunes and seeing the future than they were, and I was always the first person to let the people around me be themselves, never doing harm to anyone. And yet here they were preventing me from being my true self. It hurt so bad, it felt like eating ice cream in a hurry when you're depressed, getting the shivers but carrying on anyway, because I had gone too far to stop. And here I am, pretending to look forward, because I'm too scared to look back.
I'm sorry, I confessed, not sure what else to say. I guess that's two of us that want to rewrite the past. But how do you stay so positive about the future?
I'm not always sure I am,
admitted Dew.
But the more I do it, the easier it's getting to embrace the moment and live in the now, without the prison of what could have been and what might be hanging over my head all the time. Because the now is who I am right now, and I belong to my true self. I used to feel so very, very lost thinking about what might happen. It felt like being permanently hungry and waiting for the next course after you burnt your lunch. But now it's a whole new start, on a whole new me, the real me, at last. Not what other people think I am, or the mistake of who I was born as, but who I am today. That's all that matters. Of course, nowadays people still don't listen to me.
She laughed.
At least back home. But at least I am me. The me I always dreamed I would be in my future, back when I was trapped in the past. So now I make the most of every single minute of my present.
How dare they, I said, angry on Dew's behalf. You're just living your life the best way you see fit, the way the rest of us are. What does it matter to perfect strangers who you are? Dew just sighed.
You get used to it, Apple Dumpling,
she said.
Everyone thinks they know you better than you do. But how can they? The me I am is always changing. I guess in the universe we say that not everyone can adjust to something so new. But then if there's one thing history taught me, it's that the universe isn't constant, and it's always changing, mutating, growing, developing. We should be too.
Dew grinned a wide grin.
And that is why I moved to Mars. Here people learn to see past their nose, eyes and stomachs to what really matters. Now if I could just get you all to stop living in the past and future simultaneously the whole time, I would have a perfect planet. But then it's not for me to shape anyone. I have a hard enough time stopping other people from shaping me.
You grabbed my hand.
Now come on, my shift's as good as over. I want to take a look at those figures of yours. You've got a nice figure after all, and a little on the scrawny side.
I wasn't quite sure how to take that. The ration arts weren't too good at compliments, and certainly never about one's looks rather than their abilities. But this felt good, so I smiled back warmly. Dropping in a quick goodbye to Elora, who was too busy necking Ailin to truly notice me going, I ran out the door, struggling to keep up with my companion. We were outside my house, only we'd been followed by those dratted kids again.
Hey,
One cried to.
eating any good cakes lately? You better get another course in quick before the storm comes,
said a second, and he danced on the spot while eating a lollipop.
Oh,
said a third, squirting something at us from a bottle.
I thought it was raining for a moment then. Raining lemonade, you'd like that, wouldn't you? I know he says you're a girl, but I think you're a toy,
lisped the fourth, the youngest.
Oh, look,
sneered the fifth, the eldest.
It looks as if our favourite fortune teller, weather person, gave up trying to find a Midhaven art girlfriend, so he got himself a Dewsbury giant instead. And what a giant, but I'm not so sure it's a girl.
They all laughed mercilessly. I'm so sorry, I said to Oo, and shook my fist at them. I'll have you know Oo here is thin for a Dewsbury giant. They all come from a gas giant planet and have to eat more carbohydrates. It's pure science. And even though she used to be a man, she's all woman now, I can tell you. They all laughed again. Oo shrugged.
I've had worse, but I can't help my past. Hello, children.
Ah, the big monster's going to eat us,
cried the first child, and they all ran away, laughing. I so apologise, I said to my new friend. I don't know what the younger generation on Mars are coming to. It's that Almathea. He inspired a whole new generation of Midhaven arts to play up and develop their egos. You smiled.
It's not for you to apologise for, Nevaeh. Do you really think I'm a woman?
Well, yes, I blush.
You don't mind when I used to, not be a woman?
Hardly, I reply, quite honestly. I deal in futures, not pasts. It's who you are now that counts, not who you used to be. But who you are now is pretty special. I've never met anyone like you. Who smiled.
Just what I wanted to hear. And the me that's here now, you actually find me pretty?
Of course, I stutter. I mean, you have two wonderful, and down there you have, and up there too your hair is so, and your eyes, the sway when you walk is very sexy, I blush. Is that the time? We better be going. Oh, look, here's my house. The Mechion cleaner robot was still hard at work, and I could see the soap suds on my windows. Using the voice activator on my door and instructing it that I had a guest, the house automatically grew to fit Oo's size, as all Midhaven houses did for visitors, going in one stride from the smallest house to the biggest one on the street. I didn't have any time to properly take this in, however, because I was too busy goggling at the damage the cleaning robots had done. No, I cried as I flung myself at my equipment. My runestones, my tarot cards, my tripod with incense, everything I had used going back years to predict all my possible futures had been wiped out by a tidal wave of soap suds. Watching the remnants in the soggy mess on my carpet reminded me of the visions I had seen, of the doom that awaited us all. Somehow it seemed much more likely now. I stood around gaping, paralysed by the sudden shock, while Lou helped herself to my kitchen and took out a broom and a mop and something that was somewhere in between, a room mop. Handing one to me, she pushed me towards one end of the room and started at the other, telling me as she went,
Now, don't you fret, Nutter Butter. We'll have this place cleaned in no time, and then we can start again. That's the best thing about being in the present. You always have the chance to start over again. Now, anything beyond broken repair goes in this big sack, and anything that can be mended goes in the middle of the floor. Then when we're all done, you're going to cast those features again, and I'm going to watch you.
I mumbled something about it being hopeless, but Ooh wasn't the sort of person to think that anything was hopeless. It was easier to acquiesce to her than argue, and within a few minutes there were 2 large piles in my house. To my surprise, the pile of things that could be mended was much higher than the pile of rubbish. You're amazing, I said as we moved the waste to the rubbish bin that grew in size in tandem, just as our house had. How did you learn to cope with stuff like that? I would have been stuck for days trying to get over the panic. Ooh grinned.
There's always a chance to put things right if you learn to go with the flow and react to stuff the best way all the time, instead of planning for the worst. Well, unless you're dead, and maybe even then there's something more. I've read Endurance after all,
she said, referencing the first intergalactic book that was still required reading in schools all around the universe.
And living this way, you also get time to stop and eat the roses, and Quality Street, and celebrations. Now then,
she said,
sit down and talk me through stuff, as much as you've got.
So I did. I traced out Mars' planetary horoscope, where 13 key planets were all lined up in a row. I threw my runestones, which came out all repeats of 9,842, our planet's notorious unlucky number. I cast my tarot cards and got the Tower, the Hanged Human, the 5 of Clandesprog Cups, and the Habridats Hierophant. I consulted the High Ching, tossing rusty coins. I slurped a cup of Clandesprod tea and studied the leaves. I stared into my now crooked mirror and sketched, showing Ooh what I saw. Then I sat in front of my slightly bent tripod, my rather damp incense burning, as I came up with exactly the same visions as before. Finally I showed her my palm print and the sudden cut-off at the end of the lifeline. I tried 7 other people's hands, I explained. We're all the same. Wait! I jumped up and showed her a fork. It's grown back. Well, sort of. See this red bump on my palm? That wasn't here this morning.
There you are.
Smiled Ooh.
There is a chance after all. May I always carry a spare fork?
Excitedly I consulted her hand again, and yes, the same line was there. Does that mean we both escape? I asked out loud. Is this a reprieve? Does everyone else perish except us two, because they didn't listen to me?
Don't know, Sugar Plum,
said Ooh.
but I know one thing. I like it here, and I don't want anyone to lose their life if I can help it. We are coming from the same place, you and I. What happens in the future depends very much on what we do now, and I've seen enough from what you've shown me to at least take everything very seriously. I mean, what's the worst that can happen if we all evacuate for a few days, just in case, right? We can turn it into a party. And I have an idea how to get people to listen. But first we need to get our escape route ready, so that people have a means of leaving it, if only we can make them.
Ooh was amazing that night. I worked harder than a Mauritian art philosopher hermit. She took me to a space shuttle, which of course was the largest one in the shuttle park. It was shaped just like a giant crumpet, big and round, and was apparently a second-hand food cruise liner designed to navigate the stars in search of intergalactic recipes that Ooh had bought up cheap. As we walked, Ooh told me that back in the days of old, Dewsbury giants used to zoom around the universe looking for food, and had even tried to make contact with Earth back in the pre-endurance days. Only because Earth food looked so unappetising, hot dog buns with icing, beans on toast, the Dewsburys had flown off without making official contact. Ooh found it hysterical that most of the flying saucer shapes in the sky that the humans had dubbed unidentified flying objects had actually been unidentified frying objects, as these space shuttles were mostly giant floating kitchens in space.
And so we come in.
Ooh told me excitedly.
All the old cooking equipment is still here. So what say we throw the biggest, bestest party that Mars has ever seen and invite as many people on board as possible. Then we can take off and either avoid the mayhem and destruction that's going to come our way, or shrug our shoulders and go back home having had a great party. That way everybody wins.
I was very excited by this. That's brilliant, I say. That way if things go wrong, we won't have egg over our faces.
Oh yes, we will,
giggled Ooh.
because you're going to help me with the cooking.
Ah, I said, my face falling. I'm not really very good with my wings, or indeed anything practical. It's a Mauritian art thing. It's hard to cope with day-to-day living and being inside your body when your head is so wrapped up in the future, and a little bit in the past.
Then you can keep me company,
said Ooh.
I'll predict when something is about to burn so I can take it out the oven. Here is the ETA of RE80.
To my surprise, the shuttle was really spacious inside, even compared to outside.
As Mauritian art houses are bigger on the inside, so are Dewsbury space shuttle,
she explained.
It makes it all the easier to transport all the food we need, especially if we take out all the excess fat from the shuttle we don't really have to have, like the seats.
Ooh started ripping hers up and throwing them out the window.
They're all designed with the Dewsbury frame in mind anyway,
she said.
And we can fit maybe 50 Mauritian arts for every Dewsbury seat that way.
Why you need those in the future? I asked, concerned. Ooh laughed.
Who's thinking about the future? I'm just worried about now. I could easily get more seats if I ever need them after all. But I can't get the people from my new home back if you're right about those predictions.
Do you have enough fuel to get us away? I asked, worried, peering into the ship's engine and watching the gauges as empty. Ooh laughed.
Thinking about the future again, my hot cross bunny. Don't worry, Dewsbury ships are powered by leftover cooker grids, so by the time we're finished baking, there should be more than enough to keep us in orbit for a few days.
My mind eased, at least a little, as the night drifted past in a whir of ovens, cookers, mixers, microwaves, ultraviolet waves, roulette waves, and kettles. Ooh was amazing, up to her arms in various baking mixtures, and hopping from one to another without skipping a beat. She was so aware and in the moment, giving everyone exactly the loving care and attention it deserved, without thought of anything outside each individual dish, all whilst talking to me.
So,
she said shyly, her hands covered in batter.
do you have a significant other now, Medea? Or even an insignificant other?
I sighed. No, I thought I did once, but I was mistaken. I spent my whole childhood and most of my adult life planning out the future with the one I loved, but by the time I was brave enough to actually live in the moment and ask her to be mine, I'd missed all the signs that she could never be. I felt like I let her down.
Is that the girl in sight with the really skinny arms and the bobbed haircut I saw you moping after in the club?
Asked Du.
The one you're still friends with? She's pretty.
I sighed. Yes, she is. But I'm afraid I messed it up by thinking we were more than friends. Then I should have realised that the people I thought were her friends were more than her friends.
That'd be nice.
Asked Du, making a whisk assessment of the whisks.
He's girlfriend with your friend. Would you make her happy?
Very, I admitted. Ella would be happier with them than she could ever have been with me.
Well, there you are then,
said Du, spinning a food mixer at high speed.
She gets to be happy. If you love her properly, that's what you want for her anyway, right? To be happy in the moment. That's all you can ask for anyone with such an uncertain future in the universe. Worry more about your own self and working out how you'll get to be happy one day, because that's what you have control over. There'll be somebody better out there for you.
She turned her attention to the biggest Yorkshire pudding I had ever seen. It was an earth delicacy, and like many earth delicacies, label puddings, was actually savoury, not sweet. Those aliens were weird. She went back to cooking and turned to me.
There's this great app I'm on. Intergalactic Dating, it's called. It matches you with aliens from all over the universe. Let me show you on my phone. I heard I had a match earlier, but with so much going on, I never had a chance to check it. Heck, where is my phone?
I doubt that, I laughed, as dark and bitter as the chocolate ooze sprinkling on top of the biggest cake I had ever seen. There's no one else for me out there. We would have had an amazing future. I've planned it out to every detail. What will I do without her? Ooh laughed at my sour face.
You're still alive, aren't you? Today, at any rate. Well then, there's hope. You didn't know anybody as wonderful as Ella existed before you met her, right? So it stands to reason you don't know anybody as wonderful as your future partner exists either. One thing I've learnt is not to have such high expectations of people. If somebody makes you happy in the moment, then, well, that's enough, isn't it? That's a treasure. So don't worry about what they might become. Just treasure who they are now, and they'll naturally become someone special the more you get to know them. Or not. So stop worrying about the future. Just be the best person you can today, and find somebody great to hang around with. And if you end up leaving to hang around with someone else, let them. And hope you do the same for you.
I tried to take all this philosophy, so alien to my Eurasian art culture, in. How about you, Oo? I asked finally. Is there anyone in your life?
Gosh, no, sweetie,
she said, and turned really solemn for a moment.
My heart is as empty as the hole in a ring donut. My life is as cold as a fridge. My life as battered as a fish. And my love life as stale as bread that's been out in the sun for weeks. But still I continue in the hope and knowledge that one day someone will make me feel as warm as toast.
What happened? I asked. If you don't mind telling me, I added, slightly wary both of the large knife she was wielding to cut vegetables, and a new look of sorrow that had come over her eyes.
The same story as yours,
she said, but in reverse.
Someone thought that they were destined to be my one and only, back when I was a boy, and they were a girl. Well, they still are a girl, I think. But secretly, I knew it never felt right, and I could never find a way to tell them that I was really a girl too. They were so desperate to love me for who they thought I was, and they tried to stop me transitioning. And that's when I realised that it wasn't really love, and they only liked me for my outer body, and who they perceived me to be, not who I was.
You had related all this in a very small voice compared to her natural style, so I all but whispered the next sentence. So that's how you ended up here? To start all over again?
Yes,
she said sadly.
Without being tied down by the memories or reminders of what the future might have been. To try and live in the moment somewhere new. So you see, that's why I want you to give up on your ideas of love the way you have them. Lovers have to be flexible.
She laughed as if listening to someone else make a joke.
Not in that way, but that helps too.
Oh, I said, don't worry. I know it's not fair on Ella to try and make her change her mind over something she has no control over. We're still friends, and I hope always will be. As for you, you're a good soul. I so hope you find someone, I said, hugging her arm, for both my wings barely fitted round it. And you will. I predict it. Ooh smiled.
You mean we all survive this? Good, I was counting on it. Now try this barrel of soup and tell me what you think. And after that I think we're about ready to put our plan into action before the food goes cold.
We both smiled at the huge banqueting table that had been laid out in the middle of the shuttle and was stuffed to the rafters, full of every delicacy we could think of.
I would like to announce a literal joyride in my shuttle. A whole new Midhaven party with free food,
yelled Ooh at the door of the Camalosian Club. The party there was by now in full swing, and 100 heads all turned round. That's right, I added, more tasty treats than you've ever seen in your life, and they're all yours, on the condition that everyone leaves right now. Oh, and tell your friends and family.
Heck,
laughed Ooh.
Tell your boss, your work colleagues, your neighbours, your cousins, your pet argibraffe, strangers you don't know but want to, and your biggest crush, everyone is welcome. We have room for all of you.
The response was mixed. Those who had tasted Oo's cooking were eager to follow, along with a few partygoers who were happy to extend the party anyway. But not everyone was so impressed.
We're perfectly happy in here, thank you.
Laughed one of the elder Narationites hanging out by the bar.
We don't trust foreign cooking.
I was tempted to leave them wherever we were, but there was no stopping Ooh.
I have plenty of narration art dishes. Why would anyone pass up the once-in-a-lifetime chance to fly my space shuttle and greet in the new Narration year while sitting on top of the world?
Scoffed another of the elder Narationites.
In my day, Midhaven celebrations were spent meditating and fasting, none of this party nonsense.
You stood with her hands on her hips and yelled.
And what are you doing down a club? Shouldn't you be in a monastery? I'm trying to keep you safe from impending disaster and giving you free cake. There's nothing bad about any of that. And if nothing has happened by the end of Midhaven Day, I'll bring you back to Mraz again, and you can go back to your fasting. Now, where can any of you possibly find fault with that?
Safety,
laughed a third.
Has Nevaeh been telling you his little fairy stories again? Trying to get you to notice him? Oh, look,
laughed a fourth.
I'd forgotten about the medium. And here he is, hand in hand with his friend, the extra large.
There was an eruption of hooting at that remark.
Right,
called Ooh.
You asked for this. Food fight.
She held a tub of profiteroles at the men. Oh, chirruped one, I'm all sticky now.
You'll have to clean up on my shuttle then, won't you, said he. The bathroom at the club is, out of order.
She winked at me. I'd sneaked in early with a plunger and managed to jam the door to the little alien's room shut too. Protesting the old-timers walked towards the shuttle park, much to Oo's delight. I suspect, though, that they would have ended up there anyway, as he secretly enjoyed Oo's cooking as much as any of us. They just wanted a quick meal. I walked up to Ella and whispered in her ear about what we were up to. Please, I whispered, I need you, like I've never needed you before.
Oh, Nevaeh,
she said in a panic.
Not here. Don't make a scene in front of my friends. You know I like you, but I can't be with you. I thought I'd explain that.
No, I said. I realise all about that now. It was wrong of me to ask you to be someone you're not. I'm so sorry about earlier. It's not about us two though, but all of us. This is the last favour I will ever ask of you, because it's the most important one I could ever ask of you. If you ever had any feelings or trust in me, I beg of you to show me now. Help me get everybody out of here. Take your wife and friends too. I promise I'll leave you alone if only we make it through this. Ella looked at my serious expression and nodded at me, holding hands with her girlfriends and tugging at them to follow her.
I trust you, Nevaeh,
she whispered.
I always did. Nothing ever changed, Mary. I always said your heart was in the right place. And you're still my friend.
And out loud she yelled,
Everybody conga!
And led a long line of partygoers outside to Oo's shuttle, where we disappeared through the doors. The Camalosian Club emptying, I rushed outside and turned my attention to those who were holding their own parties in their houses or at the town hall. Using a megaphone that had once belonged to Clandesprod Auntie C in the days of insurgents, and which I had borrowed from our public museum, I walked around telling everybody about the free food on board the shuttle. But, as expected, nobody was listening to me.
Oh, give that thing here.
Yes, smiled Ooh, and she started singing.
Come out, one and all, and have some fun. No Midhaven is nearly done, and we have celebrations still to go. So come out to our shuttle and I'll give you a show. Free food, free fun, banter with your friends. We're the shuttle party bus that never ends. So come along everyone who's still awake. We've brought ice cream, biscuits and cake. And wake them up if they're asleep. We've got so much food and it won't keep. Not forgetting all the Mars bars. So come into space with us and eat with the stars.
The majority of Mauritian art adults eagerly left their houses and joined in the fun. We didn't get to have many parties on our planet, and this one was a long year coming. Even so, many Mauritian arts felt reluctant to truly let their wings down due to the cost of the preparation. The offer of a free party, of someone having done all the hard work for them, was too much to refuse. Only the town clerk didn't seem too happy.
It's that annoying insect from earlier, sir.
He complained to the Mauritian art mayor and president.
With that same old silly story about the end of the planet, no doubt.
However, neither official was ever going to give up a free party with free food, so, shrugging, they went to join in the fun. Eventually every Mauritian art adult citizen, and even a few holiday makers, had been accounted for, and even a shuttle as big as Ooh's was stretched to breaking point as everyone boogied the night away. Ooh and I patted each other on the back and went in to join the party.
This is great,
Beamed Alien as we walked in.
The food is tremendous, Ian. There is so much heart in all your cooking. And so much of it too. This could feed the planet for weeks.
Why, thank you.
Beamed the Dewsbury.
I must send you my recipe.
So tasty.
Murmured a Stroffel in between bites of 4 different pastries.
I'm never going back to collaboration art food again after this. Porridge. Ugh.
They're really good, aren't they? I said, pointing. Have you tried the trifle yet?
Trifle?
The Stroffel blinked.
That's not a trifle. That's a massive. Great party, Nevaeh.
Smiled Alula.
It's a shame the children aren't on board. They would have had some fun.
Something problematic began forming in my mind. But before I could think what it was, the person I had been wanting to speak to wandered over to me.
Well done, Nevaeh.
Said Ella, beaming.
I'm still not sure about your predictions, but even if you're wrong, you've helped throw one hell of a party.
Thank you, I smiled. It was mostly down to Ooh, really. She's amazing.
Ooh,
Giggled Ella.
I know that look. Somebody's in love.
What? I said, my face blushing. Of course not.
Yes, you are.
She smiled.
I don't forget things like that, given how close we've always been to each other. You've turned red, and you're looking at her the way you once looked at me. Oh, don't feel bad. I'm super pleased for you. She's great. Nobody deserves love more than you.
Oh, I stammered. No, it's not just that. This sauce is really hot. My face is on fire.
Your bowl of cereal. It's too hot.
Asked Ella, confused and peering at what I was eating. Yes, I lie. It's a special Dewsbury Giant type of cereal. Warm flakes, they're called. You put chili powder on them instead of argibraffe milk. I reached over for some powder off the table and took a spoonful to prove my point, and struggled to gulp it down.
Whatever you say, Nevaeh.
Laughed my friend.
Oh, by the way, your doctor's over here. Dr. Rooster, how are you enjoying Nevaeh's thesis?
But we had no time to talk anymore, because just then it went really dark. Is something up with the lighting? I asked Ooh, worried that something had gone wrong.
That's not us.
She said, panicked, and stuck her head out the window.
Nevaeh,
She said in a small voice.
how are those cosmic storms of yours going to start?
Of a big cloud that suddenly arrives out of nowhere without warning, I said. Why?
I think it's here.
Ooh said, pulling her head back in sharply, just as a deluge of rain hit the planet. Quick, yelled the mayor as the cloud thundered and roared as if in pain.
Take off.
Ooh ran to the controls, but I yelled, "No!" at the top of my voice so loudly that for once people actually took notice of me and stopped what they were doing. Something had just hit me. What Alula had said. While it was true that all the adults were on board, all the Mauritian children were tucked up safely in their beds. We couldn't risk their lives. Even the brats who'd been rude to me earlier, I realised. I explained why we couldn't take off and leave them to the incredulous crowd. If my calculations are correct, we still have 10-15 minutes before the storm properly hits, I said. I'm going back to get as many of them as I can. Now, it isn't that Maggrumph are scared yet. Not a bit of it. When the time comes, when we can plan and prepare and work out the 15 best courses of action, we are the toughest, roughest, fiercest lot of aliens you could ever hope to meet. If our backs were up against the wall, we could even out-argue the Agrosians, out-battle the Belobrats, and out-horrify the humans. But for everyone else on that shuttle except me and you, this storm had come without warning, something they hadn't properly believed in at all, leaving them entirely unprepared and unready. With no time to work out a plan and analyse every possible future outcome, everyone was paralysed with fear, unable to think of anyone or anything beyond themselves, and saving their own crickety skins.
He's right. Let's go with him,
yelled he. But there was a reluctance in the shuttle that only Maggrumph could understand.
It's suicide,
cried Elora,
I won't let you risk your lives. You've already saved all of us here.
but she tugged at my wings to stop me going. Maya coughed.
Look, it's not that we don't love our children or anything, but... Well, dash it all, never mind about our future, we're all safe. Let's quit while we're ahead. We can always have some movement. That might be fun.
There's a lot of murmuring in this. We still have time to save everyone if we're quick, I say, rushing to the door.
We only have seconds to live, not minutes.
Asked the President. I met his gaze. Sir, I said, trust me. We have minutes, no less, no more. So let me go and do what I need to do, and don't move from this spot till then. You'll be quite safe in this shuttle. It's a sturdy Dewsbury one after all. Who already had her galoshes on and was standing at the entrance, a last tray of baking still in her hands.
I had only known Nevaeh tonight, but he's been right about everything so far. And right now, in this moment, I trust him with my life,
She said.
If we're not back in 10 minutes, fly without us. Some of you know how to, I'm sure.
She nodded at the couple of Mecular visitors in the crowd. Taking my hand in one of hers that wasn't holding another tray of pastries, we then ran out the door together to the main town.
You take the left, I'll take the right.
Who said to me, and so we shot off in different directions, banging on doors and taking as many children in our arms as we could. Within a couple of minutes, though, we began to realise how desperate the situation was. Most houses on Mars were extra secure with their own alert systems, and as Maggrumph children were so smart and responsible, no adults felt any qualms about leaving them on their own. But our architects never planned on a panic like a growing storm, and a bunch of near strangers banging on doors. Many were asleep and didn't hear us. Many, rightly under most circumstances, wouldn't let us in. Others had seen the first rain hitting the windows and grown scared. I met up with Boo in the middle of the main street, a handful of youngsters under our arms. What do we do? I puff. We're running out of time.
Not yet.
Said Boo.
Not in this exact moment. We just need an idea. You're good at moving. What would have enticed you out of bed in a stormy night?
Something curious I'd never seen before. Something that would make me forget the lessons of the past and my worries about the future, because it seems so enticing in the present. I said, reflecting on how much Maggrumph was still finding out of himself about what we left him. And something tasty. Looking around, I spot the megaphone still dangling from his neck, and the last batch of cooking that he was still clutching in her hands. And I think I might have just got it.
I'm the Pied Piper, the tasty and hot, and we've got ever such a lot. I'm the Pied Piper, come enjoy your Midhaven. These pies are so tasty, they go so well with gravy. Oh, I'm the Pied Piper, you could all have a tray, but you must come straight away, it's for your own safety, okay? Oh, I'm the Pied Piper, there's lots more in my ship. I've also got plenty of chips, but you'll have to be quick.
Maggrumph children had read about pies, but they had never actually tasted them. We didn't really do convenience foods on Mars, full of combined tastes and textures. We mostly did inconvenience foods that were bland and healthy and a pain to cook. Midhaven Day was the one time of year when the adults got to try tasty delicacies from the rest of the universe, and there had been a growing frustration amongst the youngsters of the planet that they'd been kept out of the festival that, after all, was all about celebrating the future. and they had more future laying before them than any adult after all. So they all came creeping out their houses, excited, yet wary of what the others were doing, and who might be looking at them, in case they got into trouble. "Please come, I'm here to keep you safe," I said, reaching out my wing as you continued dancing and singing, trying to attract attention.
Wow,
Said one child looking at the sky.
a catastrophe you predicted. It's here. We're all going to die.
Said the second, and he hopped about on the spot, just to prove to me that he needed saving.
Blimey,
Said the third in shock.
it's raining. Very, very hard. And why is the sky so dark? My daddy should be back by now.
Whispered the fourth, the youngest.
I'm scared.
I particularly flinched at that one, knowing that it was her own parent that had been willing to abandon her.
Oh, look,
Said the fifth, the eldest, scared and a little in awe.
it's an angel. A girl from the stars that's come to save us.
They all shrieked for help, mercilessly. Who smiled and picked up about 30 Malaysian art youngsters under each arm, each clutching a pie, while I scooped up a couple of stragglers.
Is that the lot?
She yelled across to me. The rain was really coming down by now, and I could barely hear or see her. "Yes," I yelled back. Luckily, as part of my catastrophe scenario planning, I worked out just how many Malaysian arts there were on this planet, and I knew that we had them all now. Together, Oo and I ran back to the shuttle as fast as we could, as I superstitiously thanked my lucky stars that we were still the lowest populated planet in the universe, like so many of us had emigrated before. We made it to the shuttle threshold just as a huge bolt of lightning came out of nowhere and aimed straight at us, heading for a direct hit on the shuttle. Oh no, we'd come so far, only to lose everyone because of a unique event that couldn't be planned for. Were all the Malaysian arts going to die a fiery death after all, despite all our hard work of preparation and planning? I stood still, paralysed by fear, watching the all but certain events unfold in front of me. But in that instant of a second, Oo raised the empty baking tray she had still been clutching over her head, and hurled it up into the air, as far away from the shuttle as she could. We watched the lightning arc in the air, changing course so that it hit the huge metal baking tray instead, just as it was leaving the gooseberry giant's fingers.
What?
Oo yelled, but she was otherwise unhurt. Someone on board the shuttle had reopened the doors for us, and Oo rushed inside, putting her armfuls of children down on the shuttle floor, while they ran into the laps of their grateful parents. When she came back for me, the Malaysian art twins, under my arms. "I think you just saved us." "Again," I blurted, still paralysed in shock.
Later. This is no time to live in the immediate past.
Oo grinned, literally picking me off the ground to deposit me inside the shuttle, whereby someone closed the door.
Lift off, now!
Cried Oo, and a Mechion who was at the controls steered the crumpet shuttle off the launchpad and into the sky, and away to safety, as it left a trail of butter in the sky. For 3 days and nights we watched, breathlessly, as Mars turned dark and grey, the red spot at the centre of our planet peeking through the storm clouds, dark, angry, and looking as if the planet was bleeding, while our planet's rings collected all sorts of rocks and space debris kicked up from the planet's surface.
How home?
Said Alula sadly, staring out the window.
How will we ever rebuild Mars again?
Our town hall.
Cried the town clerk.
How can I act important now without a place to do anything?
Our club.
Said the owner of Kolawallabula.
I only just finished redecorating. How will I work now?
Easily.
Smiled the mayor, his daughter dangling from his shoulders.
The history of our planet has been preparing for the worst and making the best of it. But now that we've met all the other species, we've rather forgotten about living halfway in the future. We have the technology to rebuild our houses again from scratch without difficulty, the way we did after the events of Insurgence and Province.
Yes,
Said Elora.
it's people who can't be replaced, and we're all safe thanks to Medea and Oon.
We had become celebrities aboard, everyone looking in awe every time they saw us. It was all most disconcerting. I wasn't too sure, being a shy Malaysian art, if I hadn't preferred it when everyone was laughing at me and avoiding me. The 5 youngsters who'd been laughing at me earlier had been particularly taken with how narrow their escape had been, and they followed me and Oo around everywhere. 2 of them said that they wanted to become famous meteorologists like me, and 2 of them said that they wanted to become a famous chef and singer like Oo. The youngest told us proudly that she still wanted to be a ballerina spaceman Galumphy driver, but she might try and fit both our careers in when she was older. Oo had baked so much food that we still had a good half of our supplies left, but none of us felt all that much like eating. The shuttle too was too cramped to be luxurious, but being of Dewsbury design was still comfortable enough for us all to mill around safely. We were all healthy, safe, full, and in relative comfort. Had this just been a day trip, we would all have been living in the moment and enjoying it, the perfect Midhaven day in fact. But of course we were all worrying about the days to come. We couldn't help it.
When does the storm die out, I wonder?
Asked the Stroffel.
Ask the Oracle.
Swallowed Ellera.
That's what he's there for.
She had become my biggest champion ever since I'd been proved right, proudly telling people, everyone she could, that we had been an item once, a long time ago. Not long, I replied, rechecking my tarot cards. It should ease off in a couple of hours now.
You wouldn't think it looking at those storm clouds,
said Aylin.
But Nevaeh is never wrong.
Oh, I laugh. I wouldn't say never, but there were just too many signs for this. Even I couldn't get it wrong.
We all did though,
said Ellera.
I'm proud of you.
She smiled at me with a sort of grin that, once upon a time, would have made my heart melt. But I knew my future didn't lie with that smile anymore, and nor did Ellera's. So, wordlessly, I smiled back and walked away, leaving her to snuggle with Aylin, whilst I walked to the back of the shuttle to sit with Oo.
Here he is.
The Dewsbury giant smiled, an even bigger grin.
Sweet cakes, you'll never guess what I just found baked in that giant Yorkshire pudding. My phone.
Oh, terrific, Honey Bunch, I smiled. Oo had been quite sad when she thought she'd lost it on Ra somewhere, along with all the contacts from her past life on Ducius, and I had already offered to travel back with her to see everyone, an offer that had been gratefully accepted. In fact, everyone on board the shuttle had been making future plans, I'd noticed, and made promises to each other to do all sorts of things they'd always meant to do, but never got round to. It was funny how a huge change in your present sometimes carved out your future for you, and yet made you appreciate the past more, I thought to myself. Live every day like it was your last had long been the Ducius motto, and it was rubbing off, even on us, Eurasianards, whose motto had always been to prepare for your last day today where you could.
That's not all either,
smiled Oo.
I finally checked out my Intergalactic Dating app and I had a match. From you.
Wait, what? I said. I'm not even on that app. Oh, I said, remembering how Ellera had set it up for me on what, incredibly, had only been a few days ago. We fell about laughing. Well, that's a sign, I said, snuggling up to Oo and pressing my forehead up to hers and staring intensely into Oo's eyes, the common gesture of love on Ra's. I always knew you were special, my angel delight.
It must be something in the stars that brought us together, golden syrup,
said Oo, gesturing at the mess going on outside the window. And she looked down at the ring donut I'd symbolically placed on her finger earlier and whispered in my ear.
Do we make it official yet?
Yes, I smiled. All the omens are good.
I'd like to anyway,
Oo announced.
Maybe take some selfies too. Although to fit us both in shot, I'm going to have to stand so far back from you I might as well be on a different planet.
I take her hand. Will we have much of a future together, do you think? I ask, not sure if I want to hear the answer. I mean, you hate your planet, and mine's been destroyed. Even the Mechions are going to take an age rebuilding Mars, and we can't stay in space forever. I'm not sure what jobs we have to go back to either.
I don't know, Pudding Features,
said my companion.
I don't know if we're always going to be together, or whether we go our separate ways when the shuttle lands. But I do know that I'm so glad I found you. I want to be with you right now so badly. And right now is all that really matters. Let's just make the now last as long as possible. And maybe, one day, we'll wake up and it will have been for the rest of our lives.
I smile and nuzzle my forehead next to Oo's again, staring deep into her soul before slowly pulling away. Oo grinned at me.
Well, that's enough thought and depth for now. Come on, boyfriend, it's time to live in your body and dance.
Boyfriend,
said Ellera in surprise, overhearing.
You two are an item.
Oh, I giggle. Of course. I mean, even the fortune teller like me saw that one coming. And I danced with Oo, while Ella danced with Ailin, and the other inhabitants of the shuttle danced with each other, round and round the shuttle, as we all talked about the perfect life we were going to have together one day, nearby, just as soon as the storms had passed, the way we always knew they would. In fact, the way they already were. For as we danced, the sun shone through the window, casting the storm clouds that had passed away. As Oo sang.
Life rescues us at the strangest times. All you've got to do is look for the signs and follow the direction of your heart. For all the signs of the stars above point to another chance at love. And just look at me, I found my perfect Malaysian art. You've got to dream of the future, because the future is a present that we can all share. There's still time for things to go right. As long as there's life, we can take another bite and live again with different people there. It's tomorrow that counts, in any amount, so make the most of getting another chance. Even if today went wrong, remember my song, there is always another partner that's waiting to dance. Don't fret or complain, or worry about the rain, for no storm cloud is here to stay. Just prepare for the sun, and the life that's to come, and all the time remaining on which to laugh and play. If you're in distress, and you feel like a mess, don't complain about how everything hurts. When your starter is dull, and your main course made you oddly full, you still have a chance to enjoy dessert. 12 different species, 12 separate respiratory systems, but we all want someone to care for, someone to listen. Argibraffe, Agrosian, Dewsbury, Labdahardet, Habitat, Malaysianard, Mechion, Maggrumph, Camalosian, Belobrat, Human, Clandesprod. All of us are just looking for a little love, and someone with whom we can share our heart.